going to talk about the CS264 examination here, talk about some assignments. I particularly want to go through the coding exam with you, okay? So you did a coding exam with me last year, didn't you? Yes, all of you. So you've been, unless somebody has just joined for this module, of course, and hasn't been through, but you get the basic idea. So there are lots of ways to gain marks in the coding exam and lots of ways to lose marks very easily in the examination. So I wanted you to know about those. And I also wanted to give you a sense of how this exam will progress. And it'll be similar to last year's one. So I'm going to talk about last year's one with you, okay? I haven't finalized the actual requirements for this year's exam, but some of them will broadly be in line with what we had from last time. Okay. I tend to change the order in terms of the way things work because I don't want you to prep too much. I want you to prep for the exam, but I don't want you to have something all ready to go because you still need to have some time, I guess. But before I do that, I want to talk about the current assignment, assignment 5. And thanks to a very observant one of your number, who shall not be named, they pointed out to me that there was a discrepancy between the actual assignment and the marking scheme. Okay. So the marking scheme is correct, okay, basically. This assignment means that you've got to update all of your previous assignments, 2, 3, and 4, okay? Not 2, 3, or 4, because you're only updating one small part of that assignment. So it's, instead of, originally this said 2, 3, and 4. Sorry, 2, 3, or 4, but it's 2, 3, and 4, and you can see that from the marking scheme, which hasn't changed. It's there. Okay, so small typo there, but a big deal. Essentially, you are replacing your shape generation section of that module, of that assignment, to replace it with a design pattern solution. And then you're going to deploy that design pattern solution across the 3 different assignments because essentially you were supposed to build and use those. Okay? So you're essentially rewriting code once, but you're redeploying it in 3 places. This is the whole point about getting the design. Okay? This is all about using designs and reusing code and understanding and see how we reuse and work with code. Okay? I say there's no change to the marking scheme. It's still the same, but there was one word. Typical, you know. So some of you may have downloaded this already, and so I'm sorry about this, but some of you may have got it a little bit early from me, but if you changed one, you should be able to do it in the others. So I'm sorry, that mistake is mine. I mean, I did this back in September, I think. I made those changes online, and I didn't look at it since September. And it was only spotted by somebody yesterday who's a very careful reader of the assignments, and thank you for that. Okay, so any questions before I go with this? So it looks, I mean, it's worth 10 marks, right? 10% for, most of the marks are for changing the code, which is not really difficult to change if you just follow the patterns. And the rest of it is for deploying it in each of those assignments. So you're actually getting some extra work, getting extra marks in these final 10 for working with your existing assignments. Now, the issue, of course, is that what happens if your previous assignments didn't work? Yeah? Maybe a problem there, okay? You still get marks, okay, for replacing that part of the code, even if the assignment didn't fully work, okay? You'll still get your marks for this. Okay? But it also is about getting you to become reacquainted with all those earlier work that you've done and been really familiar with that, because you're going to have to do this kind of work in the coding exam. Right? And, you know, doing it a few times repeatedly helps with understanding and getting it working. So that's why you have this assignment. That's why, even though it's you know, not a lot of new coding, it's about working with designs, and that's why you're getting 10%. Okay. There are no questions? No? Okay. Let's get to the exam. Okay, so we're going to learn about the coding exam in particular, and we're going to look at the Moodle exam space, because you will have this Moodle exam space. You will have seen it last year. The same kind of setup will happen this year. But have you got your exam timetable yet? Yeah, so you'll see then that the online Moodle quiz, that will take place on the 17th of January, 2023. Okay, 17th of January. That's the last day of the exam, isn't it? Yeah, second last day of the exam. The last day of the exams, yeah. Yeah, so it's the last one. Okay. All the Moodle quiz examinations, the 1 hour ones, they're all organized by the university. They don't organize the coding exam. The department organizes the coding exam. And we've opted to run that the day after. So it will start at 12 o'clock on the 18th of January, and it'll finish at 12 o'clock on the 19th of January. Okay. So you've lots of time to get ready and practice for those. Okay. So those are the dates. Please always check that there's no clashes with exam timetable, but we did make sure that it sits directly outside of the exam, as close to the exam period as possible, in case you're planning on going and taking a break or sleeping for a week or something, after the hard work of the exam. So it's there, okay? So please let me know if you've got any concerns about the dates and times with your timetable. Make sure, check your full timetable, okay? So the Moodle quiz is a 1 hour quiz, 1 hour quiz. And the other one is a 24-hour period for the examination. I always keep telling people this. It shouldn't take you 24 hours to do the assignment, okay? It's just not meant to be a 24-hour coding exam. If it was, I'd have to give you a week, right? So but it gives you time to do this at any point within the 24 hours. And I mean, if you're clever and you're industrious, you should be able to have lots of prep work done for this, okay? I said I don't like to give too many surprises. I want you all to do well in this course, so I'm going to give you some tips now on things you can do to prep for this. Okay. Sorry, you had a question. Yeah, last week, were you at the lecture last week? No. If you were, you would have seen I spent 20 minutes talking and went through the full quiz last week. Okay. Not all theory. Any further questions? Yes.
How's the percentage divided?
Yeah, I'm going to go through that. That will be fine. It's 20% for the Moodle quiz, and it's 30% for the coding exam. And so 10% will be for the first question, and 10% for the second question. Good that you asked, because I sometimes forget to say. So each of the quiz questions will be worth 10%. And I talked about the structure of those questions last week and how you can get good marks in those. Everybody should be able to get 4 from 10 as a pass on each of those. Everybody should be able to get 6 or 7 from 10 with a bit of work. To get 10 from 10, you really have to do some work now in terms of practicing and prepping some examples and understanding demos that are not ones from my notes. Okay. To be able to get the full marks, or close to those full marks. Okay. And what happens is that we will take your 50% goes for your continual assessment. So if you get over 50% because you've done all of the extra credits, or maybe you've done some of the extra credits and you get above the 50%, I can't give you that 50% as for your CA because it has to be 50% for the continual assessment part. Okay. But what I tend to do is if somebody gets, say, let's say you got 97, 98% overall in the exam, because you just maybe didn't do too well on one of the exam Moodle questions, or you didn't do something. Well, if you got close to 100% and you had maybe 5 or 6% over from the CA, I would just add it and give you 100%. Because nothing like having 100% for a module. Okay, and 100% doesn't mean that you got nothing wrong. Okay, 100% means that you met my expectations for the module, or perhaps exceeded those expectations. So you can make mistakes and still get 100%, okay? Because, that's fair, And my marking isn't as accurate. I've got to mark every single one of your questions, every single one of your coding exams, every single one. And I do all of them because I can spot in case people are trying to cheat and submit the same one, okay? I have good memory, right? So if I see something and I see it again, I'll remember, pretty much. So anything that's, okay? So yeah, so it's possible to get 100%, even if you haven't got there, but if you've got your CA, okay? You've done okay. So make sure you check your assignments, make sure you check your CA, and make sure you're close, okay? I mean, and in the ordinary course of events, let's say you were 2% away from 100%, then even if you didn't have the CA, I might still give you the marks, if you do a good job, okay? I'm here trying to bring people up, not trying to bring people down. The only people I won't bring up are people who are not going to labs and who miss the number of labs. You'll get 34%, which means you have to repeat the module. It's a hard technical fail for not turning up and not engaging. Most people in this class are engaging. We have a few people who just won't go to labs, okay? Think it's fun not to go to labs or something, because, and still do some. It's fine, yeah, but you're only going to get 34%. That's because that's the way the module works, the rules in the module, okay? Can't do anything about that, unfortunately. If you fail, I always allow supplementary assignment work for the repeats. So if you didn't do your CA, and there's lots of reasons why people don't get to do CA, okay? You can have something going on in your life that doesn't, help or isn't conducive to you getting work done. But I have to look at the balance of fairness across the whole class. But when summer comes, and if you've failed, and you're working, or whatever we call it now, not progressing, let's say you failed the exam in the summer, and you're trying to shoot a good mark for the autumn, I will always give a chance to do some supplementary CA, bring up some marks. Okay. Always. Sorry, you had a question.
Can you miss a couple of labs and still...
One lab. You have a chance if you've missed another lab, go to 2 labs next week. Okay? Then you don't miss 2 labs. Or go to 2 labs this week and next week. And if you've missed out in a lab, go to 2. And we'll also then be able to give you the mark for reviewing your assignment backdated onto an assignment. Okay? Help get your marks. Okay? Yes? We have reviews, so we know if you're there from the reviews. Yeah. And that's a good point. If we didn't have the code or they forgot to put it up, and we've lost some demonstrators and a few things like this, but we will have done a review so we know you're there, okay? But generally. Yeah. Any further questions on that? Yes?
What if you went to a different lab that wasn't yours?
You should have been recorded. Okay? That should be there. We would have had a review for that as well. Okay. Check your lab count, get an extra lab if you can, and we work from there. I say, 1, but if somebody has missed 2, I'm probably not going to be overly mad, especially if you seem to be doing okay and you've done your assignments and so forth. It's mainly for people who are just not putting the effort in. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
How do you check your lab count?
You should have your own records. I mean, I would always know what I'm doing because I have a diary and I know what I'm doing at a particular time. So, but you could always check with Mark, okay, as well, okay, as an extra check, because Mark's count is the count, really. Anybody who hasn't submitted, I'm not asking you to put up hands, by the way, okay. Anybody who hasn't submitted an assignment at this stage, let's say you missed one, you talk to me or send me an email. We'll see what we can do to help you may be able to submit late to try to get a pass or close to a pass or something. Or if you did really badly in this assignment and you did the assignment, you did really badly, you have a better look now, you have a better chance now, send me an email. I need to get this done before the end of the semester, okay? You know, no point mailing me 2 days before the exam, okay? Not going to help you at all, right? Check now. Look at your marks. Look at your assignments. If you're not getting something, if you're not getting close to the marks you hope to get, mail me, please, and we'll arrange something so that we see. You might be able to resubmit just to get 40. Okay? See, I can't allow people to submit late and then get full marks. It's not fair on the people who actually did it at the time, in time. It's just not fair. But you know, if you're still, but people progress at different rates. So if you're only getting it now and it's only coming together now and you'd like to have a go at doing something spinning, please talk to me and we'll see about something we can do to help you get a pass. I want you to get into fourth year, you know. I want you to understand the subject as well, right? And bring that with you, okay? But you get it once you do the work. I mean, you know, once you earn it, right? It's about earning it. Okay? But I still have to make the distinction between the people who are just about passing, people who are not passing, and the people who are doing exceptional. You know, there has to be that differentiation between people. Okay? That's the whole point of doing this kind of assessment. Well, I'm not saying we don't have to, but that's the way it is. Okay, you know, in the grand scheme of things. So, 10% for each question, 30%, and I'll show you the breakdown of those in a little while. So, any further questions before I move on? Okay. Okay, so let's have a look at these. So when you, I'm not sure if the current dashboard has the all. I'm not sure if the exam for CS264 is available just yet. Exam CS230, exam 264, 2021, exam CS264. Okay, so I don't have an exam for this year yet, okay? So, so what I normally do is I normally have an examination section here. This is last year's one. I normally have it here and then I move it in its entirety over to the module when it's done. So that way I can test and make sure it's fine, okay? So, as I said, the 30% of the final examination will be the coding test. Okay. So the Moodle quiz, these dates are not correct. Of course, this is from last year, just using an example. Okay. If you are registered with the Access Office or have issues around, you know, examinations or anything you need, you know, sometimes there's timing issues, then you can have an extra 15 minutes per hour. That's the normal. And I know about this, and I'm normally given a list, and I update my lists, and I manually update the individual exam for each person. Okay, I won't contact those persons, but I will know, and I get a list of names, and then I'll search for those, and I'll make it. So you should get there, but you do need to check. Okay, if you are a person who's getting extra time, then you need to check the minute the exam starts just to make sure. So 50 minutes per hour, so the coding exam would go up to 30 hours, okay, as well. So that's, so I know about this and I will do this, okay? Look, sometimes things go wrong for people, okay, on the day, you know. Lots of things get in the way. I had a person who had, like, you know, an accident getting to an exam at one point, you know. I mean, there's all sorts of things. Just email me as soon as possible if there's issues, and we'll be able to do something for you to help you out, okay? Right. So just always be in communication, let me know. There's no point coming 2 days after the exam and saying, oh, I didn't make the exam because, you know, I ran out of coffee or something, or whatever, you know. there's some reason, I mean, it might be important, but important stuff. But sometimes I get I get all sorts of stuff, okay? And I don't know what's going on in your lives, but it'll be important for you. But the day that it's happening is the time to tell me if you can. I know it can be very tricky. Now, there's some things that will happen. I mean, we've had people who've had deaths in the family, and they can't tell me. And it does happen 2 days later, then I have to look at what I can do, okay? But generally, please, even if you forget, like I've had a student who was 50% full marks, got full extra credit, forgot to do the exam, right? Forgot to actually do the exam, but didn't tell me. If they had told me, I could have made some kind of compensation for it or something, okay? Could have come in and sat in front of me in a room and given it, and I could have checked to make sure and given them a separate exam. I can always do something to help you, but please tell me, okay? Please tell me. Okay, so the coding exam then is the same basic idea. You're entitled to 15 minutes per hour extra if you're an access registration student. Usually you will be involved, you will have to use command patterns throughout. You'll have to use a command and memento. You'll have to do both pieces of software. So you'll be asked to do a design, build something, do the undo and redo with memento, do undo, redo with command. And so there'll be two separate kind of sections to this, much like you've been doing with the most recent assignments. You'll also have to submit the UML diagrams for your solution. A lot of people just don't do that. I want you to use the Plant UML software. Okay? I need to see automatically generated solutions from code. I don't want you submitting your own personal designs in the UML. I need to know what the UML looks like when it's designed and generated from the code. Okay? Automatically designed UML. So people often draw some UML software and say, well, this is the one that I use for my project. Well, I don't know it is, because it's just something that's made up. I need to see the actual UML that corresponds to the design. So people lose marks because they do not automatically generate the Plant UML and submit them and send it to me. That's work you can do now. That's work that you can set up and do with your favorite editors now and dynamically generate that UML. If you haven't been doing it and you've been losing marks, by not having it, you need to get that done. There will be marks for this. People lose marks by not having something done that they can just say, go, and it generates the button. Even if you can't install it, you can copy and paste your code into one of the online Plant UML forms and say go, and it will generate it for you. Okay? There's lots of ways to do this. Investigate what works for you. Don't be going into the coding exam and not have this working place. It's an easy, I think it's 5%, I think. Okay? Yes? I need to see some way it's actually generated. So Plant UML shows that to me, There are other ways to do that, but I need to see and have the details on how to make it work. I mean, why not do it? Do you know, you're going to cost you extra work in the exam to show me and prove to me how you've actually generated. Yeah. Yes? Early on, I did a video. Yeah, I used it. I showed how to. Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, and you have to. No, I didn't show that in the video, but you have to actually sometimes play and tinker with how the connections happen and so forth, especially if it's trying to do lots of them and it's trying to balance across. But I wouldn't be penalizing when it's not doing those connections because I know it's not due, it's a Plant UML thing. There are lots, it's an art in itself trying to make this thing work. Okay, so don't do extra work to try and make it happen, but you can tell it how to set up and how to draw and whether you've got angled lines or curved lines and all that stuff. There are lots of commands how to do this. At this stage, I don't think it's worthwhile putting the effort in to try to learn how to do that just for the exam, because I would be happy. Is that fair enough? Yeah, but I mean, I have done it, and it's a bit of work. You know. Was there a hand over there as well? No? No? Thought there was a hand up over there, sorry. Okay, any other questions about that? You will also be expected to write something. Let me just zoom this, okay? You'll be expected to provide short descriptions for the patterns used. Okay, I mean, I've been trying to get you to write, to describe this stuff, okay? Please get some practice in even in the last assignment on doing this. Talk about the approach and what it does, okay? You will get marks for this, okay, for explaining your design. Okay? Not doing it means you don't get marks. Lose easy marks. I have seen people who have been on, say, something between 35 and 40%, which is just in compensation range, you know, because maybe they struggled or whatever, and they could have written something to describe what they're doing and got some marks that brought them up over compensation into a pass rate, okay? Same with other boundaries, people who are under 70 and are close to a first class honor mark and they didn't write anything, or they didn't include the plant UML diagrams. They could very easily have pushed themselves up, okay? So please look at this. So the breakdown in terms of the marks, so there's 10% for a fully working solution incorporating the command line user interface, 5% for implementation of undo using command, 5% for implementation using Memento, 5% for the description of the software design usage, UML, okay, and 5% for dynamically generated and annotated UML, okay? You can get 10% for fully documenting your work here. That's, now it needs to be right, okay? I'm not going to take rubbish. But you have a good chance of getting a good 10% there, yeah? Now, of course, the code has to be worked. It has to be based on the code. You don't write something about what you could have done or should have done or may have done, you know, or give some UML for what you could have written, okay? Or what it should look like. It's only based on what's actually being done, okay? And remember, UML for, so you have a description for the Memento, a description for the command-based solution, a description, a UML for each of these as well, okay? So it all breaks down to little parts. Okay? But you know, you could be going in with 35% from your continual, or 45% or 40% from your continual assessment. Make a good attempt at this. Easy get 20% from these, okay, to push you up. Okay? Yeah. So that's how I would mark it. Okay. So I think it's not so bad, but it's fairly clear what I expect you to be able to do here. I mean, and that all adds up to the 30%. Okay, so 30%. So I think there's 10% will be for the overall working program, and that needs to be pattern-based as well, a bit like current assignment that you're working on. Okay. Then there will be 5% for a Memento, undo, redo on that, 5% for a command, undo, redo, and then 10% for the UML and description spread over the two of those. Okay. So there's the code, the solution. Okay, so that's worth 10%. So that's how it breaks down, okay? So it works there. So if you were to just do one full path and say, I'm only going to work on memento, you could have a maximum chance of getting 10%, 5%, and 5%. So the maximum you could get would be 20% for this. Yeah? You can't suddenly give me the UML description or UML for the command section if you only did the memento and expect to get marks for that. Even if you were to include it, I would give you no marks. It has to be based on the actual code that's there. Does that seem okay, that diagram? Yeah? Yeah? So that's how to mark. So people often make mistakes. They think, oh, I'm not going to do this part, and I'm just going to put in the descriptions, something. But actually, you won't get any marks unless they follow through in this waterfall pattern here. Yeah? So it's worthwhile making an attempt. Okay? And you know, sometimes I look at saying undo and redo. Well, you know, if the undo is working just fine, but the redo part isn't working, I could still probably give you 2.5%. Yeah? Is that fair enough? Yeah? Yeah? So you'll get the marks for the bits that are working. There is no negative marking. I don't penalize for something, okay? But you, in other words, so if I have this 10% part here, I need to see patterns being used up here in this 10% part, okay? So that part here, this solution here, this needs to actually be utilizing patterns, okay? And the CLI. And I will break that down probably into 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, 4 sections. One for the CLI, one for actually using patterns, one for actually being able to do something, save and write, okay? So normally I'm asking you to generate some SVGs, okay? So you have a lot of stuff that could be done already, used based on your assignments. You know, I'm not going to spring something on you that's completely and utterly new, you know, because, you know, you've been working on a way and designed something, and I want you to do well. Okay? But now the coding exam is not the time to start thinking about learning about patterns. You know, the time to do that is during the assignments. Okay? But if you've done your assignments, it will build on those assignments. Okay? Any questions before I move on? No? Yes? No? Okay. So it's very, I think it's very doable to get high marks, okay? By doing the steps that you're asked to do, okay? And you know, I'll ask, generally this is about making emoji. The assignment's always about making some kind of emoji and making faces. And no surprises again, you know, all SVG-based emoji stuff, you know, and I ask you to do something with that. The actual starting point and the command set will differ from year to year. Just so you just don't go talk to somebody who did it previously and get a copy of their work and try to submit it, okay? They'll be slightly different. Because the commands will be different, that means you have to actually update command. Okay, the undo, redo, you might be able to do something because just save it to canvas. You could be able to redo some of that stuff. But the command-based one is going to be tricky because the commands will be different from time to time. And how I ask the commands to work. Or what I ask you to do in those. Actually, you know, we've been doing this kind of thing for years, and surprisingly few students actually try to cheat. Okay, people are trying to do a good job and have their own portfolio piece and talk about it. You know, but people, you know, because if I wouldn't have people doing in low marks if they weren't doing their own work. You know, and I'd rather see people do their own work and get the mark they deserve rather than try to game the system here. You know, one thing. Speaking of gaming and working, is that sometimes you see preparation for the Moodle quiz where people work in study groups and they answer, and so they know they've got 10 questions, so each of them do some work on a question, and they try to answer a question, and then they have something prepped. But the problem is that, like, when I ask you to have an example of your own choosing, if there are 4 people in the study group, and the 4 people are using the same example, and submit that in the exam if they get that question, then it's not your choosing, it's the group's choosing. So you have to have a few different examples in place. Okay. But yeah, it's a good idea to work in groups to be able to do that. It's also a good idea to actually come and talk to me with your solutions to the Moodle quiz questions to get a sense of, is it on point, Is it the sort of question, are the marks, have you a good chance of getting marks? Okay, I don't give answers, right? Because the minute I give an answer, I made a mistake of doing this at one point, and the minute I gave answers, it went on to social media, and then, because, you have your own groups, and I just kept getting that answer back, everybody giving me the same answer because thinking that's correct, and then, but I will look at your mark, I will look at your answer in advance of the exam if you wish, and I can give you an idea of what marks you might get for it. Happy to do that, happy to talk to anybody about that. Or if you're working together or something, that's fine, okay? But I generally need to discuss this face-to-face with students rather than online. Again, the minute I submit something and say online, it gets shared. That's what people do, So I'm not going to do that, okay? But I will talk to you in person. And I always say, if you're coming to me with an exam query, bring a friend, or two, because chances are other people will have the same kind of questions or something. Okay? Or if you're working in a group, come along. I'm very happy to do that. If you're working between now and the end of semester, I'm here most days. You never get me on Thursdays, but most days I'm around, and you can make an appointment with me. I've had a bad few weeks with dental problems, but so 2 out of 5 working days every week for the last 3 weeks I've been in the dentist, right? Touch wood, this week is going to be okay, right? So, but yeah, so look is good. So I'm around for the next couple of weeks, and after we come back, I think it's the 4th or 5th of January. I'm around all the time, and I don't have to give classes, so I'm around and I can talk to you about the exam. If you've got some prep and you want to come and talk to me, I can do that as well. Okay, so happy to do that. Okay. You can also email me, and if I can answer it by email, I will answer about the exam. But I tend not to. I tend to post answers to questions in Teams rather than by email to an individual. Okay, because that way everybody gets to see the same answer. Okay, but chances are, if you have a question, somebody else probably has that question as well. Okay, so we only have about 10 minutes left, so I want to show you what the coding exam looks like. Okay. Did you have an emoji exercise for me in CS230? What did you have? The ghost thing. Oh, the ghost thing, yeah, okay. So you had those kind of stuff, right? So you know about all this stuff already, it's easy. So you may already have seen my examples in terms of working with emoji. Okay, did you see that demo that I posted? No? No, you haven't seen any of these demos? Let me show you, I'm sorry. Okay, and so, look, I also have SVG. I also have SVG viewers. Oh, sorry, get rid of that one. There's an SVG viewer for this. You presume you're using it already, yeah? If you're not using it, it's probably a good idea to start using it now. So let me just look at this HTML viewer. So here is an SVG viewer, and this is a dynamically generated, well, this is not dynamically generated. I have ones that use JavaScript to generate all this stuff, but this is a simple sample emoji that's been created with SVG, and the code is there for you to take. I mean, I've got this on my GitHub. You can just take it and use it as a basis for any assignment or examination if I ask you to work with emoji, okay? Have you seen this one before, this example? There's a lecture on this stuff and a full page on GitHub, so it shows you how to do the SVG related to making emoji and how to make eyes and eyebrows and all that stuff. So I tend to ask this in an examination, so you can do that prep work now and have that ready. so that the coding exam doesn't take you 3 days squashed into 24 hours, okay? Do the work now. I guarantee you I will be asking you something to do with emoji, okay? So the work that you do in prep for it will be good work, okay? It's not wasted. So there's lots of examples there, and you can check, as I say, you can check the GitHub, and you'll get the example. I mean, I gave it to you last year. If you're stuck or can't find it again, but here are how we. So I think there's lots of them. I think I posted a demo before, but you know, here's a whole bunch of SVGs. Let me just try this one, terminal. So here are some different ones. I mean, there's loads of them, okay? So they're all there available for you to look at, okay? The coding exam itself then will look, okay, so we've got the same kind of stuff as we had previously, where you have the overview and the instructions will be there. This is where you'll be able to use the same kind of submission box for your coding exam submission. The quiz will be just a Moodle quiz. You can go to the quiz. You'll get a quiz like this. You can preview the quiz. I can preview the quiz, start and attempt, and I'll get a question. Okay, folks, you have to use this box. Okay, you have to start typing and posting your stuff into this box. Right? Every single year. Every year, and I've been doing these online quizzes for years, I get somebody who mails me and says, oh, I didn't, the quiz closed and didn't get time to copy from Word into it. Well, sorry, tough, okay? I'm not taking it after the exam is over. No. Paste it, and every 5 minutes, if you want to use Word, but copy and paste every 5 minutes and putting it in there. Then it will make a backup as well, okay? And people say to me, oh, I was using Pages on my Mac and it crashed and I lost the stuff. Well, I use Pages. If it crashes, you can recover. Okay? You know, if you paste it in here, it has a backup. I can see all the backups in Moodle. Okay? Use this. If you want to add an image, you can just use this button here to add the image in. Don't just try copy and paste. There are ways to do this. Okay? You have an hour, get stuff in here, and put your answers into this box. Okay? I've told everybody now. Mind you, I told everybody last year as well and the year before, but you know, no excuses, okay? I cannot accept something by email afterwards that says, oh, you know, it closed. Okay? I can't reopen it and do it. The exam won't allow me to do that, okay? I just can't take it. So put it into the box. Please, please. Okay. Okay, so that's that one. It's really important. And you know, the reason I'm saying this is because people make that mistake all the time. Okay, so here's the coding exam. That's just a normal submission box. Easy, you've done this every year for every assignment. Here's the coding. I'll set up this anyway. As soon as the space becomes available, I'll put in the full details and the headers and all that kind of stuff, so you know some details. Full instructions here for this. You should have a read of these, okay? When I say you're requested to describe, you must describe in your own words, using examples not selected from the lecture material, not copied from online sources. I will usually, if anything looks dubious, I will copy and paste, and I will search against every document that I have in the lectures. I will also paste it into Google, and I'll look for matches and hits with Google, or I'll pop it into Turnitin. Okay? I do every single one of these exams myself. It takes me days and days and days, you know, just to be sure that there's no funny stuff going on. You can't just copy stuff and paste it. It's plagiarism, and it's simple for me. I don't just mark, I just say, this has been plagiarized, I submit it to the board for plagiarism, and then it's a big deal. Okay? Big deal, huge deal. Okay? Okay. So we can't have that. Code, if I ask you to give code, they don't have to be fully syntactically or semantically correct, okay? They're code fragments that give me an impression that you know what's going on, you can do the stuff. They don't, you know, you're not gonna lose marks for small code errors. Okay? Not gonna. But then it needs to look like code. It's not pseudocode either, okay? But if there's, I won't be copying and pasting and running it. I'll run it in my head, see this will do the business. Okay? So this, for example, then, this is a draft, okay? Oh, coding exam's not here. Okay, let me just go to the dashboard, my dashboard. Let me look at the exam for 2CS264. Look at this one. Let me look at this. Okay, so we're 30%. You've got to use an emoticon generator, always the same. Utilize commands, single face, 5 optional facial characteristics, left and right eyes, brows, and a mouth. I might change that to include noses or something this year, or something along those lines, okay? The application should have commands for choosing different feature types, adding and removing features at default positions, repositioning features. Your application provides command line help. Undo, redo for memento on command. You have to have 2 working copies. You should utilize software design patterns throughout. You must have all the class diagrams, PDFs, PML. You must use PML for VS Code. And then it should tell you this will be the command list for, this was the command list for last year. Doesn't necessarily mean the same command list will be this year, okay? Might be different ones, okay? But what we will be sure of, there will be an undo and redo in here. And a draw will probably just be to give you the list of the SVG code. Yeah, that's okay. Options, additional notes. Best practice when it comes to software design, that means you have to use your patterns throughout. If I'm not seeing patterns, you're not going to get the marks. Here are the descriptions. These descriptions are a little bit shorter than the ones that I've been asking you to do in the assignments, so that you've had some practice, okay? So 200 to 500 would be easier than the 1,000 I'm asking or whatever, so that should be okay. You won't be using playgrounds because we're not accepting playgrounds at the moment. And again, there's stuff here on how to use smiley faces. This, for example, might be how you might run the example, and so forth. Okay. So nothing that's overly different from the kind of work that you have been doing in your assignments, and nothing overly different from the kind of exams that I've asked previously. The command set will be different. That way, the internals will be slightly different as well. Okay, so this man.
Will it involve animation?
No animation. I just do that for fun. Okay. You give me an idea now. I know, I'm only messing. No animation, I promise. Okay, so another man here with a question. Right? Same question, yeah. Any other questions that like are going to give me good ideas? No? Look, no surprises, guys. You know, no surprises. You just do the work, you'll get the marks. Okay, that's the way it is, all right? Okay. One more question there before we finish up. Yes, this man with the lovely jumper. Oh, it's definitely going to be. It's not going to be pizzas or anything like, you know, food oriented this year, you know. Okay, despite popular rumors, you know. Anything else? Yes, one more. Sorry, guys. Yes, one zip file with 2 folders is great. You know, the memento solution, the command solution, that would be super, yeah. Anything else? Okay, so we're near the end. Next week's the last week, okay? Nice to see you next week, and thanks. Good luck in the labs.